Could you give a short summary of the novel?
Yeah, sure. Well, the journalist and agent for an oil company, Agent Will Farnaby, crashes on the shores of the island Pala with an intention to instigate oil extraction. But as he experiences life on the island and gains knowledge about the way of life, he gradually gets more and more fond of the island and its customs and philosophical principles. Protagonist Will Farnaby is a journalist from England working for Lord Joseph Aldehyde as a private ambassador and business agent. He does not seem to be a very good writer as he got the job from Aldehyde as a wedding present, almost as if he can't get a job himself. In the book, he is described as having Nordic, pale skin, bony shoulders, and the body of a messiah, and he is too clever to believe in God. On page 29, Cecilia describes him as being so unhappy that he has to laugh like a hyena, and later she regards him as a man who has been left to suffer. He himself says, "I don't care where I am from, nor where I'm going, from hell to hell." He may be an unhappy character due to the past. He has fundamental doubt about his life and whether he has ever been true to himself and his wife. He needs help to gain salvation from his existential misery. Will's mission is to persuade and convince the Rani into letting Colonel Deepa buy the oil rights of the power.
Okay, Madhu, give me an analysis of the setting.
Okay, so this story takes place in 1961 on the island of Pala. And what's made clear is that Pala is an island and it's off the western coast of the Malaysian peninsula. Pala is a forbidden island and it is tropical, and you can say because it has like a jungle and it has monkeys and volcanoes and parrots, and that makes it very exotic. So spirituality and sex have big impacts on this society of theirs. But firstly, I want to talk about their religion. Buddhism is their main religion, and to be exact, they are called Mahayanists. But Hinduism takes place sometimes in the history as well, and in their religion. So they have these kind of different yoga, such as yoga of love, yoga of everything. Like you can basically put whatever you want after yoga. And by enforcing this and to do this, it will lead to you to be aware of who you are, and that's what they want to achieve. And this is a big thing for the inhabitants. In order to get there, you need to be paying attention, and later on you're gonna get to know that that's a big motif. So these minor birds remind people of paying attention, and as you can see in the beginning of the book, it says attention as the very first sentence. They also say here and now, so it's like a reminder of live in the moment and just pay attention. And they utter these thought expressions. Apart from yoga and meditation, to achieve this realization of who you are, you can take the drug mushroom medicine to get a revelatory experience. Knowing who you are makes you go into a total bliss. The sex addicts are lovers, so you're not, if you're addicted to sex, you're a lover, you're not an addict. It's not a bad thing, it's regarded positively. They work on the power of love, so it's this utopian love society. The island works with artificial insemination in the way that they, like the kids, by using this in artificial insemination, Pala's kids and inhabitants gets the strongest and healthiest and the best looking and the best fitted kids, which will make the whole, like the genes, and will make the whole Pala stronger. And they mentioned that that's not the case in the world outside of Pala. Contraceptives are distributed for free, so the government just gives you condoms or birth control so you can have more sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the island is based on the principles of an oasis of humanist values, for example, putting humans in the center, and also the old Rani that you learn about. And these Icelanders believe that Cecilia says tiny oasis of humanity. On page 117, it says, Islanders believe that, as Cecilia says, tiny oasis of humanity. So they think about the humanity and sex and love, and yep.
So I'm going to do a brief exploration of relevant literary, cultural, social and or historical connections to put our text into perspective. And our group has chosen the one with Avatar, the movie, because we feel as if they have very similar elements from the start to the ending, really. And one of the key elements that really, or similarities that really shines through that we focused on was the intention switch, so to speak. When Will, he's sent to the island to extract their minerals, but ends up with another intent, and that's the same in the movie Avatar, where Jake Sully, who's the protagonist, is sent into this world to explore the people and sort of infiltrate them in a bad manner. And he's doing so, and throughout the movie, as it progresses on, he ends up sort of falling in love with the people and exploring the world, and also joining their religion. And in the end, they have this big tree with minerals in it, and it's sort of really important to this the human race, and they want him to go against the avatars, but of course he doesn't want to do so. So he ends up going against his own race, his own human race, just to protect this world and the people, which we feel is really similar to Pala and Will and Pala. So yeah, I'm going to do an analysis on the major themes of our book, and we've chosen 3 themes that we think are the most important, and that's conservatism, it's materialism, and it's capitalism. And there's sort of also an underlying theme in the capitalist versus the anti-capitalist, and the materialism versus the spiritual. And that's because in the outside world, or the world outside Pala, where Will comes from, they're very materialistic and capitalistic focused. They're very much in just for the money, and they just want to grow, really. And Pala is very anti-capitalist. They're very spiritual, and also that's where conservatism comes into play, because they're very conservative in their way of thinking. They don't want to change the way of living. They don't want to change the way of thinking. They really want just to stay the same. And the outside world is created as or at first glance you would think the outside world, okay, it's dystopian, but at the same time you sort of can relate to this society, because Elders sort of wants to create our society as the dystopian society, that we are just in for the money. We just want to grow, and we don't think of other people, how they feel, etc. So you sort of can relate to this, and you think, is this this world we're living in today a dystopian society? But at the same time, your dystopia could be my utopia, and Pala might be a dystopia for someone. And also the book, it's a bit strange because you wouldn't really know if it's an utopian or dystopian book, because it has so much focus on Pala, but at the same time it has so much focus on Will and the outside world, and one has to be the dystopian and one has to be the utopian. So what is the book? Because they have so much focus on each of the Pala and Will. So it's really hard to distinguish. There's love, there is sex, there's religion, and there is here and now. And it would seem as quite a lot, but we feel as if they come together in a sort of symbiosis, that it's all about being in the now. It's all about being yourself and just, being aware of your surroundings. And they have this art form, which is called Thou Art That. I don't know how it's pronounced. I don't know how to speak that language. So yeah, call it what you want. They practice the art form and practice what they call yoga of love, and also just in general physical love, and also that they live with this risk of getting pregnant, that they don't wear any protection. So yeah, they do that. And also that they want to, this art form or whatever, it can't be studied. You can't just read it in a book. You have to experience it yourself physically. and yeah, that's the only way of learning it. And it's also just about being aware of yourself, your surrounding. The self-awareness is very important. Um, and they have this thing where the first bite, um, yeah, they bite of their food have to stay in their mouth so until it dissolves completely, because it sort of, yeah, it just makes you more aware of yourself and you're not self. And yeah, that's really it.
Any perspectives on the society of Pala?
One thing that can be said is that they have a lot of systems in place to try and prevent, or at least diminish, the unhappiness created in Palanese society. And one thing that they do is that they, from an early age, they divide, after they've spotted future delinquents, they divide them into different groups based on their character, and then they take different precautionary measures to try and diminish or suppress their future criminal menace. Another thing that can be said is that they've achieved quite a high degree of egalitarianism, since they do not have the temptation to overconsume. This is stated on page 145 by Dr. Robert, who is sort of the guide to the island that our protagonist is introduced to. And he says that we don't hypnotize ourselves into believing that 2 televisions will make us twice as happy as 1 television. And here the ascetic state of mind that the population as a whole have on Pala. And a third thing that could be mentioned is the adoption club, which is also called the MAC Mutual Adoption Club. And this is a system put in place in order to let children who have become fed up with their family, let them travel to an alternative family where they can get a relief from the strenuous relationships that might build up in some certain families. And this is all to try and cut off all the unhappiness that will also spread to the rest of society. So all in all, from these things it can conclude that Huxley tries to show us his version of a utopian society that answers many of the problems that we have in Western society today, also back at that time that he wrote the book. Also, egalitarianism is a clear characteristic of utopian society.
What is the main conflict of the novel?
Well, there are other significant conflicts, but we believe that the main conflict is the internal conflict within Will, which manifests itself in whether or not he sticks to his initial task of playing the Earl agent, coming to Pala from Western society, spreading capitalist values. On the other hand, he might choose to follow his growing belief in the values of the island that he's introduced to along the way. A quote on page 85 clearly shows this look he has and this internal struggle and doubt he has. Watching them go, Will felt a twinge of conscience. What charming young people, and here he was plotting with Bahu and the force of history to subvert their world. The young people here represent the population of Pala and their ideals, and the man mentioned, who is called Bahu, is one of the proponents of capitalism that he speaks to on the island. And this twinge of conscience clearly states his internal struggle, and because of this it can be argued that we have an individual versus self conflict. And this individual versus self conflict is really a conflict between capitalism on one side and the spiritual egalitarianism, which is based on Buddhist values that he experiences on the Palanese island.